Today, the Church celebrates what is called Corpus Christi, which means the body and blood of Jesus Christ. So, why does the Catholic Church have that day? Well, it's to remind all of us Catholics that we believe that in communion, the bread and the wine do become the body and blood of Jesus Christ during Mass. And this made me think of something, what we call Eucharistic miracles. You might not be aware of what those are, but it has happened a few times that when a priest has celebrated Mass, that the bread, when he says, "This is bread becomes my body," and this wine becomes the blood of Jesus Christ. But the bread looks the same, the wine tastes just like wine. However, it has happened on occasion throughout the world where the bread has become flesh, real flesh, and the wine has become blood. So usually when you read of this stuff, we hear of it only of having happened back in the 15 or 1600s. However, I was surprised to find on the internet that it is still happening in places around the world to this day. For example, not too long ago in Poland, a priest was celebrating communion and a wafer fell on the floor, so he picked it up and set it aside on the tray and finished giving communion. And then after Mass, he went into the sacristy, and the wafer he took and put in a bowl of water. And usually when the water dissolves, then it would be poured outside onto the ground and buried, because that's Jesus' body. But he decided to leave it and put it in the tabernacle because it didn't dissolve. He thought he'd save it for a couple of days, and then once it dissolved, he would take it out and pour it into the ground. So a couple days later, the priest opened up the tabernacle and took it out, and he was surprised to see that the Eucharistic wafer had this red stuff around the edge that looked like flesh. And he thought, I'm going to put this back in for a couple more days and see if it dissolves. So a few days went by, and again he took it out, and it was the same. So he thought, I better let the bishop know. So he told the bishop exactly what it looked like and that it had become flesh around the edges. And the bishop said, "Are you sure?" So the bishop then called in some other priests and theologians and had them come examine what the priest kept. And they wanted to see what happened. So he said they told him to leave it in the tabernacle for a month. So after a month, he took it out, and it still hadn't dissolved, and the red flesh was still around the edge. So they decided to go ahead and contact a medical professional, a doctor, to come examine the sample and take a look at it and take a sample of it and put it under a microscope. And they found out that the red flesh around the edge was made of human heart muscle. And that it showed that that heart muscle had been through great, great suffering. And the priests were just flabbergasted, because that's what happened to Jesus when he carried the cross and was crucified. And also, they identified that the blood type for that sample was AB. And that's quite interesting, because out of all the other Eucharistic miracles like that have happened, the blood type for all of those was also AB. The people in Poland could not believe, and they thought it was impossible, because even though around the edge outside of the wafer was the heart muscle, the inside was still bread. How could they be fused like that? It was impossible to them, but they didn't have an answer. And that's quite interesting. So now, why do you think these Eucharistic miracles are popping up all over the world? Well, I think it's a way for Jesus to remind us that, yes, this is my body and this is my blood, because Catholics go through communion like it's some rote activity, and it's there to remind us that, yes, this is the body and blood of Jesus we are taking during communion. And I think that that helps us remember that when we go to Mass, we are really meeting Jesus and taking his body and his blood. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, and God bless you.